This is an open meeting. Right around the door as you walk in is the actual Open Meeting Act. I'm going to ask that you would all stand with us for a moment of silence and as well, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we'll continue with roll call.
Rehnquist.
Here.
Lange.
Here.
Merrill.
Here.
Clausen.
Here.
Murin.
Here.
Moaning. Faust.
Here.
File.
Here.
All right, under action, I would ask for approval of the consent agenda as provided.
So moved, Your Honor. Second.
We have a motion with a second to approve the consent agenda. Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
And as well, I would ask for approval of the full agenda as presented in your packet.
So moved, Your Honor. Second.
Motion with a second to approve the full agenda. Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
All right, on our agenda, first up is a special presentation tonight given by Elkhorn Logan Valley Public Health Department presentation on responsible beverage server training classes that are being offered. Who's speaking to that?
Supposed to be, I don't know, but they're coming.
Well,
What it is, so I don't know where they are.
all right, maybe what we'll do is move forward and come back to that, should that person. I'm not sure I'm qualified to do that training, nor is Beth, she says, so we're going to move on and do a public hearing then. And we'll start with first the consideration of ordinance number 5411, amending the city's comprehensive plan from single-family residential to mixed use on the property located at 107 North Cottonwood or 210 East Brush Avenue. Ordinance number 5411 passed on first reading at the July 5th, 2016 City Council meeting. I'm going to ask for a motion for consideration here.
Your Honor, I'd move consideration of ordinance 5411 on second reading.
Second.
All right. Val, are you going to speak to this and share a little bit once again here? Right.
I can give a little recap of what we spoke about last time. This is at Cottonwood and Norfolk Avenue, the Nissan dealership. The Nissan dealership is actually I-1 zoning, and this is just to the north of that, R3 zoning with the request of OD, which to do what the Nissan dealership would like to have is automobile overflow parking. The OD zoning requires a conditional use permit with it also. And this is not just the zoning, but also the comprehensive plan change also. And its request is from single family to mixed use.
Okay. I know there might, originally, I heard some questions from the council as far as questions on the OD. So I'm looking at you, council, and we've already had the public hearing on it, but if you have any questions for Val, feel free. Otherwise, if you're comfortable with where we are and what has been explained to us at the first meeting.
Because right now, we're on the comp plan end of it, correct?
Right. Okay.
Mayor, I know we've received some letters
Yes.
to the council and the mayor on this, and I see some of those people in the audience tonight. Is there opportunity for public comment on this at this time anymore?
Those letters can certainly be given and recorded into, and they are. So, but the public hearing has taken place. So, with that being said, again, council, any comments or ready to go forward and vote? All right, now this,
I guess I have a few comments.
okay,
I had a few comments the last time too. You might
Yeah.
remember.
yes,
You know, again, I'll just say up front that this is a tough one because it's always hard to tell someone what they can and can't do with their property, but I think it's the reason why we also have zoning regulations. And in this instance, I believe the residential designation to be the right one and that it should stay in place. I know that there's been some compromise from the original request to go straight from residential to commercial, but it does call into question what we're doing, how we're going about it to accommodate that. I spent a little time this afternoon and looked at the office district definitions in our code, and I fully understand, before I go any further, that our land matrix does allow for what we're attempting to do by an office district rezone with a conditional use permit. But when you look at the original intent language behind zoning regulations for office districts, they are really office oriented. There's 8 different options here listed in section 27-142. Corporate offices, general offices, medical offices, photographic studios, other similar uses, multiple family dwellings, some medical office uses. So, and there's laid out 2 specific conditional use uses, mortuaries and funeral home services or lawn care services. So when you look at the historical definition of office development or office district in our zoning regs, you don't see anything about overflow car lots. I think in this instance, I question why we're trying to make a stretch here to accommodate something that clearly doesn't have the support of the neighbors. Last meeting, we had a number of neighbors here. There were petitions signed by more than 20 people in the area saying that they wouldn't want to live next to a car lot. That's not even to mention some of the plans that the city has for reinvestment, revitalization in the area, including a river trail that is going in this summer, that will be going in close to the area, accommodations that were made for the Norfolk Avenue Bridge replacement next year that also call for room for a trail to go underneath that trail. And I do have a question about that because as it is right now, there's no room for that trail to go on the top of the bank of the river. It would have to be built into the bank of the river. And this overflow car lot will make it will become even more proximate to that trail if it should go underneath the Norfolk Avenue Bridge. So I know there would have to be some engineering that way anyway, but I wonder how much more we might be having to spend on a potential trail going down the road by having this car lot in place for at least the next 10 years. I mean,
I
Councilman,
don't know, I guess I can't answer the cost factor, if there's additional cost factor. I can say, though, that we're not anticipating any permanent easements to put the trail in there, and maybe not even in temporary easements from the landowners that are adjacent to the river
Yeah.
there. The trail's got to naturally stair step down
up.
along the bank in order to get the grades right to meet ADA and to meet just a general feel of a trail for the walking public and the biking public. So we're going to be
that it is.
back to the north quite a ways and stair stepping that down to get under the bridge and then come up around the south end of the bridge. So.
I think my larger point is, in recent years, we've seen a lot of renewed interest in this area and its community development potential for all of Norfolk. And those plans, a lot of them include residential investment and further recreational use of that area. This type of commercial encroachment, especially on an existing residential, in my opinion, does not fit for the long-term development potential of an old historic neighborhood proximate to a historic park in our community.
I think we'll go through it. We'll see how far we go.
And I think for consistency's sake,
Okay.
we have to look at this too. I mean, if this were a proposal for an overflow car lot next to a house in a newer development in town, say El Dorado, frankly, I don't know that we'd be talking about it right now. I don't know that the proposal would have seen the light of day.
Councilman, I
Said my
appreciate,
piece.
and it's appreciated. And like, there's a reason that this city attorney sits next to me, and obviously, he keeps me on the clean, so he has advised me, even though the public, or the actual public hearing was held 2 weeks ago, there is the opportunity for those to speak either in favor of or in opposition to. So, in saying that, though, I would like to respond to certainly some of Josh's comments, or if there's any of the elected officials that want to chime in on this discussion before we open this up to public, if you would bear with us. This is tough. I believe it gets right down to what is already existing there. I believe it gets down to a business that has been in existence within our community for some time. And certainly, I believe that the intent with working with city staff on trying to come up with something that would allow him to meet the requirements, or that business to meet the requirements that are put out there by Nissan, I think we've come up with an opportunity that is probably in need of some discussion. So all that being said, first of all, I'd like to know if there's any of the council that wants to speak to, and then certainly I will open it up.
So that being said, when you open it up, are you going to open it up on both portions? Because right now, it's the comp plan.
Right.
It's not the specific zoning, which is, I think you've been addressing mostly, Josh, was the specific zoning that way. We're talking the comp plan end of it. So we
And that's
keep losing focus
Focus.
on that.
You're right.
That fact that way, and, but you're gonna open both of them up for input
Would you
at the
like me to
same
do that?
time?
For an inject, I mean, or you tell me. I want to make sure
I
that,
think it should happen that way.
Okay.
But I'm open for any other discussion that way too. But again, the comp plan is is different than specific zoning.
well, and the reason, Councilman Lange, I didn't, is because we would need, if you remember right, again, the city attorney sitting next to us reminded us that it's going to take 6 votes to pass the comprehensive change. Am I saying that? That's correct.
That's correct. There
Yeah.
was the reason for that is there were 19 properties that were within the 300-foot set forth in the statute. 2 of those, one was held by Norfolk, the city of Norfolk, and one was held by Madison County. And there were more than 20% of the remaining 17 that filed the protest. So under 19905, it takes 6 affirmative votes to pass ordinance number, what is it?
5411.
5411 on second reading when you come to that point.
Okay, this is the reason I didn't open vote. So, because again, it gets back to, do we want to start talking about the ordinance changing the zoning if in fact you don't improve the comprehensive plan change?
And
Am I
my
making
only,
sense? Go
my
ahead.
only thought on that is that the discussion most of the time centers around
The zoning.
zoning and not the comprehensive plan. But I'm fine whichever way you want to do it.
All right. I would like to see us go forward and just vote on the comprehensive plan to change from single.
I guess, sorry, Mayor, excuse me. I guess in here, I agree, Jim, they're 2 different ordinances, but we wouldn't even be considering this ordinance unless we had to, unless there were a zoning request change right behind it. So,
You would
know,
like, okay.
I would prefer, I'd see it reasonable to have public have the opportunity to comment on this comprehensive plan change, because that's it, that's the linchpin here. You know, if we just decide to amend the comprehensive plan, I think the writing's on the wall. We wouldn't be here, we wouldn't be discussing this otherwise.
Well,
Valerie brought up the point about the conditional use permit. I know we don't want to really touch on that part of it, but to me, that's the key factor in this. Has all that been ironed out?
If everything passes tonight with the zone change.
Val. we need you to speak up, you soft voice person.
If everything passes tonight, comp plan and zoning change, it is on the agenda for Planning Commission tomorrow. There is a draft conditional use permit on the Planning Commission agenda from what we heard at the public hearing that we held for the conditional use permit at Planning Commission. It'd be, what, 4
4
weeks ago?
Right.
So it hasn't been completely ironed out. It's still technically a draft, but we have already had the public hearing at Planning Commission for the conditional use permit also.
Val, the conditional use permit that's on the planning commission agenda for consideration tomorrow, if it becomes right, is the same one that was on there 2 weeks ago. Has it been altered in any way?
It has not been altered, no.
And so just so that everyone understands what happened after the ordinances were passed on first reading at the last meeting, at the planning commission meeting the next morning, they merely took the conditional use item and removed it from the agenda, didn't talk about it, didn't consider it, and didn't do anything with it. So it's back on the agenda. If it's ripe, meaning that both of 5411 and 5412 pass on both second and third reading, the planning commission would consider that tomorrow. If they only pass on second reading, but not on third, they won't. If either of those ordinances fail, they won't deal with it tomorrow. If that makes any sense.
All right.
So if we approve this tonight, can that plan still be changed or modified?
Sure.
Yeah, the conditional use permit that's on the Planning Commission agenda can still be altered by anything that the planning commissioners would like to change in that. It's still just a draft for them to look at tomorrow.
But we have no idea what might end up
That's-
in the conditional use permit.
All right. With that,
When you do have a conditional use permit and you're in violation of the terms you set forth in that agreement, how's that process work? Say someone, the neighbors comes in and says, listen, we were in the impression that there were not gonna be any lights in there. I don't want lights in my house, I don't want headlights coming in, those sort of concerns we heard, and they make a complaint to the city. What's the process there?
They make a complaint to the city, just that. That complaint typically, well, in this case would come to Val. Val would investigate that complaint, see if it's legitimate or not. And based on that, she would have the opportunity to present those facts in front of the planning commission and/or the council.
And then what action can be taken?
Well, it becomes a violation, Clint.
Yeah, in addition to that, if there's a violation and that comes to Val, she gets a couple of choices. One of the choices is it can be filed as an ordinance violation, punishable every day that the lights are there, to use your example. Could say there's not supposed to be any lights, there's lights there every day the lights are there, could be filed as an offense, just like a speeding ticket or whatever, with the potential for a $500 fine along with the court costs. The other thing that she can do is she can come back to the planning commission and say there's this violation, and can address it by modifying or withdrawing. They can cancel the conditional use permit. So they could modify it if that was the case, or even withdraw, take away whatever rights are granted by the conditional use permit. So she's got a multitude of options depending upon the severity of the violation and the magnitude of the violation.
Okay, so it's fairly serious.
Yeah, she's got options available to her that are able, I think, to go anywhere from saying, cut that out, to at the other end, taking away the conditional use permit. So depending upon the severity of the violation, I think that she can match that with her response.
Thank you.
Again, I guess I just say, my question tonight is this particular zoning change request valid enough to jump through these hoops, to change the zoning to office district and go through conditional use permit? That's what I think we have to decide tonight, whether that.
let's talk about the comprehensive plan, though, for just a moment, if we could, because obviously that's really where the discussion belongs as we look at that piece of property. And again, this goes back to us as far as planners that are trying hard to decide what is it that's going to fit best in there. And I understand that there's residential right to the north, but right south is commercial. So this is not an easy one. It's a commercial business that's been there for some time. So with that being said, Councilman Moaning, I would just ask, do you see that there, I mean, I know our future vision, and I am all about it. And I think everyone sitting up here, as far as elected officials, supports any and all efforts as we try to develop something different around that water piece. However, that being said, you know, it means what to that single piece of property there if we were to allow OD to be there? I don't know. I think, I almost think that's a better discussion because, and Councilman Langy, I see you with lots of thoughts running through there, and I always appreciate your input because you were part of the Planning Commission for much longer than I've been around, so. Give your input. Go ahead. I mean, what's your thoughts on this? I understand your
Well,
statement.
and I guess I'm interested in hearing from the public, specifically on the comprehensive plan end of it. And the comprehensive plan is from single-family residential to mixed-use property. It doesn't say OD, it doesn't say anything else other than single-family to mixed-use,
Right.
to mixed-use property. Now, we've heard, you know, it's been single-family, there hasn't been any development along there for single-family over a multitude of years. Matter of fact, the single families that were there, those houses were dilapidated and were removed. I would pose that, you know, and the riverfront people, from what I understand, are proposing, you know, different uses along through there, which, you know, may have some catering things or items along that line. That's not single family. That is mixed use. That's why I feel at least the comprehensive plan change of this is appropriate in it. And Val, a question for you. Underneath the mixed use comprehensive plan label, is residential allowed in a mixed use area?
Yes, the use characteristics say incorporates a mix of residential, office, and limited commercial uses. That's the description of what a mixed-use
Of the
designation
comprehensive
is
plan.
in the comprehensive.
And thank you. I thought that's what it was. I just needed somebody that had a whole lot more experience than I do in that area. And so, you know, we're not, by adopting this change to the comprehensive plan, we're not taking it away from single-family residential. We're not taking it away from two-family residential, and we're not taking it away from being used, you know, in a commercial situation that way, which would have to be, if you were to do little, you know, the ultimate big scope, if we were thinking way far out of the box, is that, well, maybe there would be places there that rent out equipment to be used along through there. You can't do that in R1, comp plan area. You can do that in mixed use. And so the question that's before us right now isn't the zoning, it's whether R1 or mixed use is the appropriate comprehensive plan element. And that's what I think we lose sight of.
I think,
Agree with all that, but my point is, we wouldn't be talking about it if there weren't in the next ordinance a proposal to change it to OD.
so I guess, Councilman Moaning, though, we would be talking about it when it came time, eventually anyway. So because it's before us, I think we go forward with the comprehensive plan first would be my recommendation. So that being said, unless there's any other comments regarding the comprehensive plan, I would ask for, if no further discussion here, council.
Are we taking anything?
Sure, if there's anyone that wants to come forward and speak regarding this comprehensive plan and what you've heard only regarding the comprehensive plan. It is not the zoning change, it is only the comprehensive plan. or Jan, if you have any questions. This gets a little complicated, I understand, but.
It is complicated. And my name is Jan With. I live across the street from the property that we're all talking about. And good evening to each and every one of you. The comprehensive plan, if I understand it, Mr. Lange, what you were saying was that it's going to be from single family. Let me take that back. Tell me again what you said the comprehensive plan was going to be for that area,
That piece of property.
that piece of property,
The current one, or,
or the projected one.
okay, the projected, from this ordinance, the projected one, and correct me if I speak wrong, is mixed use. Mixed use allows the residential elements, allows,
And limited commercial.
so,
Which Mr. Moaning read through, correct? He read through what the office district,
that, he read, what he read through was a zoning district, was not a description of the comprehensive plan.
okay, so
Element.
the comprehensive plan is the mixed use.
The comprehensive plan is broader than the specific
So
zoning
anything can
designation.
go in there.
No, not anything.
The amendment to the comprehensive plan, if it should be done through this, would allow for the zoning change to take place. But it's essentially the first step to making the zoning change.
But if we start.
Will be voted on as a separate ordinance.
If we start spot changing these zonings or plans, let me rephrase it, if we spot changing these plans that we have on comprehensive plans or ideas, aren't we just throwing that out? Don't we just, okay, so let's have a zoning change up in El Dorado. We could do that. You know, you could change that. Well, then you're spot changing here, you're spot changing there, you're spot changing all over, and not leaving that comprehensive plan the way it is. That's how I'm seeing it. Am I wrong? That's how I'm understanding what you just said.
Yeah,
If I'm wrong, then explain that to me. But I think what you're looking at is, it's a comprehensive plan, and you want to spot change that comprehensive plan.
You say that comprehensive plan
The comprehensive plan that we're talking about
is big.
is big.
Yes.
Right. And so you want to change part of that.
Well, that's what's
Yeah,
before.
that's what,
But then are you not spot changing just that section? Or are you spot changing a whole big part of that comprehensive plan?
no, we're.
Because it entails, I would think that that comprehensive plan entails more than just that property. When you look at a big picture of it and the area, it just changes that property. If I'm wrong, tell me.
It speaks to the long-range plan for that area. And yes, does it change it? Yes, it changes it. It changes it from, as happens often, as is happening with our change to the overall city's comprehensive plan will be coming out here in the fall that way. But this is, and a comprehensive plan is a growing and developing element that grows and changes with the city.
Correct.
Yes, and so in that area, it is addressing that, yes. And is it spot? It's,
It is.
well,
If you're a resident that lives in that area, it is spot.
If you're a business that exists in that area,
But, Mayor, when he bought that property, it was residential, and he knew that,
okay?
okay?
Yeah.
So take that into consideration. He knew that when it was residential, when he bought it. I've lived there longer than what that business has been there.
Do you not agree, though, that in the time that you and I have lived in this community, there's been lots of good changes for the
There
betterment
has
of the
been,
community.
but you know what? It doesn't encroach in on residential areas. Thank you, ma'am.
Again, we're speaking to just the comprehensive plan.
Okay, I apologize, I came in late. Who knows if I'll have a job tomorrow? This is that important to me. And I don't know where this is going to belong.
Yeah, I need you to sign in for me again and state your name.
Sorry, and I live on the corner of
Right.
Cottonwood and Brosh. Okay, I called. I remember what Mr. Raji said about corporate dictating where he parks his vehicles. I called Nissan Corporate today. I spoke with him. I told him who I was, why I was calling. Said, I don't know if you can help me or not. Don't know if you can answer this. But this is my question. I live in this neighborhood, didn't mention his name, said, this is what's going on. The neighborhood's against it. Does Nissan Corporate dictate where those cars are parked? They said, can't answer it, but I can forward the call to somebody who can. They did. Option number 7. No, they don't dictate that. So that's not the truth. He could set up an office down at Mary's Cafe and use that, the same as what he uses, the one he has now, and he could beautify that into town also. I have the number if anyone wants to call it. Like I
Great.
said, don't know if I'll have a job tomorrow or not, but this is that important to me.
Okay. Jan, too, before you leave, will you sign in for me?
I say,
What-
Jan's
Before you
not-
leave? Oh, did you? Okay, thanks. Anyone else that wants to speak to the comprehensive plan? I've seen this gentleman before.
I think I'm following your instructions, and I think it related to the comprehensive plan, but you can kick me out if it doesn't work here. My name is Stan Staub, and I'm a volunteer citizen, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself. But as most of you know, I am part of a group called the Norfolk Development Project. This is a volunteer citizen organization that was formed nearly 10 years ago to promote, plan, and organize a vision for improvement of the North Fork bypass channel that flows through our community. This major tributary of the Elkhorn River is a priceless waterway that has endless recreational, residential, entertainment, business, and retail opportunity. This waterway has many existing features on or near the banks that have been improved for recreation, such as the hiking and biking trail that will soon be constructed and will tremendously enhance our wonderful Norfolk Trail system. Major feature right beside this is Johnson Park, which is a favorite of our citizens, and many improvements there are already in place, many more to be made. This development project to this point in time has taken a great deal of time and effort by more than a few dedicated citizens of this great community. Now has the full support of elected city officials and staff. As the trail and recreation improvements become reality, we are now turning our attention to more interesting things like potential housing, retail planning, and other opportunities along this corridor. There are several private landowners that have made significant investment over the years, of course, that live in the neighborhood, and they have their own opinions on this, and you hear some of those. I'm coming at this from a riverfront corridor type of approach. Our members are concerned. The issue before your planning commission, you've already made some decisions. We are concerned about the auto dealer parking lot on the east, what I'm calling the east bank of the North Fork. And I would oppose this. I would ask you to uphold the planning commission's decision. And I have a few more points I would like to make and deny that. Several neighborhood concerns, you've heard those: light, noise, and encroachment, among other things. The high bank of the North Fork in this area is already developed with a large paved lot. There's already one there. The proposed parking lot does not meet any requirements for future river development, in my opinion. The city has removed several maintenance buildings that were eyesores in some people's opinion, and yet in other people's opinion, the city workers and so forth, they were very necessary, but it certainly cleaned up the area. They're not conducive to development for future opportunities, certainly for this excellent trail work that we have in mind. And our other thing that we're thinking about here is the removal of the aging retaining wall on the river. And this will improve the visual overview of and meet hydrologic standards for the flowing river. Design of the new Norfolk Avenue Bridge was revised, I know more than once, to incorporate trail-type development. The North Fork parking lot will now be conducive to this long-term improvement, in my opinion. This multi-million-dollar investment in the bridge, the trail, and other improvements in the park and so on, our impossible economic development is not compatible with parking lots. I strongly encourage the city to implement a reasonable, appropriate, and lasting overlay plan that will protect this river corridor. This will prevent encroachment and these kinds of issues in the future. The North Fork development is a major vision. It's a vision at this point, but yet parts of it, as I mentioned, are becoming reality. It's a vision of grand opportunity. A live flowing river in any community is very rare and very, very valuable to many, many people in lots of different ways. Let's work together wisely and do it right. We either do it right or we don't do it. Thank you very much.
Anyone else that wants to come and speak to the comprehensive plan?
Good evening, Mayor, City Councilman. My name is Al Raji, and I apologize, I was a little bit late, and just wanted to, if there was any questions in regard to my application for this change, as far as the comprehensive plan.
Actually, Al, we did state prior to the actual public hearing, unless you have something more to add to what you stated to this council 2 weeks ago. I appreciate your being here.
No problem.
And right now, we're looking at consideration first for the change to the comprehensive plan, which I think you understood from last week that it takes 6 votes to make that happen. So that's where we are.
Okay.
Okay? All right. Council, anything else? Anyone else? If not, I'm going to ask that we vote for consideration of ordinance number 5411, amending the city's comprehensive plan from single-family residential to a mixed use on property as discussed. Again, we're voting on second.
Voting in favor of ordinance 5411 on second reading. Council members Granquist, Langy, Merrill, Clausen, Murin, Faust, and File. Voting against the motion, Councilmember Moaning. Motion carries. Ordinance 5411 carries on second reading.
All right. And now we're going, what? Am I good? Look for consideration of ordinance number 5412, which would be approving the zoning change as requested from R3 multiple family residential district to OD on the property located at 107 North Cottonwood or 210 East Brosh. Again, ordinance number 5412 was passed on the first reading at the July 5th council meeting. Do I have a motion for consideration?
I'd offer ordinance number 5412 for consideration.
Second that, Your Honor.
All right. We have a motion with a second for consideration of ordinance number 5412. If no further discussion, we're going to need a short title, Beth.
Yes. An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Madison County, Nebraska, amending the zoning district map of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, providing when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and providing for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
With that, please vote.
Voting in favor of ordinance 5412 on second reading, council members Granquist, Langy, Merrill, Clausen, Murin, Faust, File. Voting against the motion, council member Moaning. Ordinance 5412 carries on second reading.
All right. I think what I'll do is, I appreciate everybody that's been here. You've heard the testimony. It's got a third reading that will be held in 2 weeks. So
There's no discussion or debate
Right.
when you do that.
there will be no further discussion or debate. So it will be 2 weeks before we move forward with this. So that being said, though, I look at the two women that came in probably because of the traffic in Norfolk, got a little hung up. We had you first on the agenda, but I'm going to let you step in. If you would like to come forward and give your presentation, that'd be great. This would be Logan Valley Public Health Department, the presentation on responsible beverage server training.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready for me?
Yeah, if you'll introduce yourself, state your name, and you did sign in, I assume?
Yes, Melanie signed me in.
Okay.
My name is Kathy Becker, and I am an employee of the Elkhorn-Logan Valley Public Health Department. My job there is substance abuse prevention, and I coordinate a coalition for substance abuse here in Madison. And one of the things that I wanted to speak to the council tonight is about our underage drinking issue that we have, particularly in Madison County. 2 years ago,
Kathy, I'm going to ask you to stay close to the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What?
Yes.
Boys back there.
Under one of the grants that I work under, we pay the state patrol to come in and do compliance checks at any establishment that sells or serves alcohol. Particularly, we're looking for any of the businesses that sell to minors. So 2 years ago, our compliance rate was at about 96%, so we were doing very well. In the last 2 years, that has dropped down to 88%, and that is concerning us. More businesses obviously are selling to underage minors, and that is a concern for my coalition, and also should be a concern for all of us, that we have minors out there getting alcohol and somebody's selling alcohol to them. Last year in 2015, there were 7 businesses that failed the compliance check. With that, there is a pretty stiff fine. It's $50 a day, and the Liquor Commission can fine anywhere from 10 to 20 days. Also, the business is fined. If they don't pay their fine, they can lose their liquor license, so there are some penalties that go with selling. Also, your name is in the paper that you procured alcohol to a minor. I actually teach a class for any business that sells or serves alcohol for free. I have a grant that pays for all the materials, and I will come into any business and do my class, or they can come into my office here in Norfolk. We just want to try to get ahead of this underage drinking issue that we have. Madison County has also received additional monies because of the underage drinking issue that we have here in Madison County. Every year I send out a letter to all the businesses telling them that we have this training available for free, and I rarely get too many that take that training until they fail their compliance check. What we're trying to do is get them to be trained so that they pass their compliance checks. It not only teaches them how to correctly ID, because now underage driver's license are vertical, so it should be very simple. But sometimes when businesses are really busy, people make mistakes and they end up selling. So it teaches them not only how to correctly ID, but also gives them tools that if somebody comes in that's already drinking and they are trying to buy alcohol or they want to buy a drink, the server then knows that by law, if that person appears to be drunk, they cannot sell to that person. But a lot of the people that are out there selling and serving aren't aware of some of those laws and the things that they can and cannot do. So I wanted to plant the seed tonight let you know that we do have issues here in Madison County about our drinking. I cover clear over to Burke County. We have the same problem all the way across. Nebraska ranks 5th in the country for binge drinking. So that's not anything to be proud of. We'd like to get that in a little better percentage. So I have a flyer that if maybe we could put this up somewhere in the city, that all they need to do is call my office, call me, and I would be more than happy to set up a class for them. Fortunately, a couple of the businesses now that have been ticketed, now every time they hire somebody, they call me, and we get their staff trained. So
Great.
it's always better to be proactive than reactive. I'm going to all of the city councils in all 4 counties about this. They have tried to mandate that at the state level, that any liquor license holder would need to have their staff trained ahead of time.
How long a training would it be? I mean, are we talking a day training? Are we
No, we're
talking?
talking like maybe 3
2
or 4 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, it's basically a short 1 day, half a day training. We can't get it through at the state level down in Lincoln, so we're trying now to come back to the different various cities and towns and try to pass it at that level. Lincoln, North Platte, and Kearney are the 3 that I know of that have passed ordinances about making it mandatory for any new liquor license or renewing liquor license, and that's what I would like to see happen also. So I would be happy to leave that language either with the city attorney or the clerk. Okay.
Thank you, Kathy.
Are there any questions about that? The only other thing that
Sure.
add, we have put in a permanent med return box for families when they're cleaning out old medications. We sometimes do a drug take back at our patch health fair. We always do a drug
Okay.
take back, but there is a permanent med return box in the police department in the lobby, so you can return old unused meds 24/7 anytime. Just drop it in the box, and then it is actually incinerated, so it's not going into our landfills or into our water supply.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm Melanie Thompson, also with Elkhorn Logan Valley Public Health Department. I was on the agenda, but they just kind of like shrunk it or something. It was just for Kathy, I think alphabetically, and putting us both on there would have been a little crazy. But I'm going to talk about quarantine and isolation very briefly. Quarantine and isolation is still kind of fresh in our minds because of Ebola. When workers, even though it didn't really land on our doorstep, when workers went to Sierra Leone or Guinea or wherever in Africa to help, when they came back, initially they were asked to be quarantined. Quarantining happens to a healthy person. They don't have the disease in question, but they've been around people with the disease. Now, somebody who had Ebola, they're not even going to question being in isolation. But somebody who is healthy, it could actually push back towards the quarantine laws. And that was the case of a nurse named Casey Hickox. She came back from Sierra Leone, flew into New Jersey, landed there, and they immediately quarantined her. She broke that quarantine after 3 or 4 days and went up to her home state in Maine, where she was quarantined again and where she started breaking that quarantine as well. She is currently suing the governor of New Jersey, or the former governor of New Jersey, over her initial quarantine. According to the law, she technically shouldn't win her case because quarantine laws will supersede her choice to violate the quarantine order. But back in 2007, 2008, Elkhorn Logan Valley Public Health Department sent an employee around to all of the city councils to discuss passing our health measures, which you can see on the left side of your folder. And that's just our infection control and what to do in quarantine and isolation. At the time, the Norfolk City Council chose not to act on this. But our health department, Norfolk and Battle Creek and Oakland were the only cities within our health district who did not turn this into an ordinance and vote on this. So we would like to ask that you reconsider this, have some discussion, and the other thing is that tomorrow there is free training available. There is still late registration. As of tonight, the company doing this training is from the East Coast, so at 7 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, if you so desire, you can come join us at the hospital by getting a hold of this company. You can call me too, and we can get you registered before their 8 o'clock start time at the hospital. They're going to be discussing quarantine and isolation in rural areas. Now, I know that that is really late notice, but the other thing is that we are having a lot of people. So far, there are 25 people registered for these classes. 4 of them are from our health department, and we would be more than happy to, take our notes and find out what we learned from this and share this with our cities and municipalities throughout our area as well.
I think that's a strong possibility. So if you want to get information to our Beth here, she'd be more than happy to take that and make sure each of the council members receives it. I think some are probably looking at a planning commission meeting possibly in the morning, and so, but I appreciate your being here. It's good information, and thank you for sharing.
All right, thank you very
All
much.
right.
The area that falls underneath this is which counties? Excuse me?
Madison, Stanton, Cumming, and Burt. Okay.
Okay. Thanks for being here, you two. Now we're going to move on to a public hearing at the request of Alvin and Susan Beckman for a hard servicing waiver on property at 1104 East Park Avenue. I will open this public hearing, and is it you, Val? Usually is with these things, isn't it?
It usually is me, yes, thank you. This hard surfacing waiver is out on East Park Avenue towards the east side of town. They did get a conditional use permit for an oversized accessory building through the Planning Commission, so now the building permit has come in, and that's when the requirement for the ingress egress to be paved also comes into play. They're asking for the hard surfacing waiver similar to what we've done the past few times. It connects to a gravel road currently, and the proposed resolution attached to the city council tonight has that same stipulation that when East Park gets paved in front of the ingress egress, then within a year they will pave the, back to the shed. Any questions?
Okay. All right. Is there anyone else that wants to speak to this? I see a willing partner coming forward here.
I don't know if I'd necessarily say willing, but we'll just say I'm up here. I'm Alvin Beckman, and yeah, we have requested the hard service waiver for our storage shed, and just for the exact reason that Val gave is because East Park Avenue currently isn't paved. So basically,
So when it does become paved, you're more than that willing partner to take care of that, right?
that will happen at that time, yes.
Fair enough. Okay. Any questions at all for Alvin? All right, thank you. Anyone else, as this is a public hearing, that wants to speak to this or may have questions? If not, how about a planning commission report, Beth?
On July 6, 2016, the Norfolk Planning Commission reviewed the application for a modification of the hard surfacing requirements submitted by Alvin and Susan Beckman on property 1104 East Park Avenue. The Planning Commission recommends approval on a 7-0 vote.
All right, with that, I will close this hearing and look for consideration of Resolution 2016-25, which would be approving the hard servicing waiver as stated.
Your Honor, I'd move consideration of Resolution 2016-25.
Second.
All right, we have a motion with a second. Any discussion at all, council? If not, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, Resolution 2016-25 is adopted.
All right, next is a public hearing at the request of Raymond Stala, Julie Stala, Gary B. Saline, and Peggy Saline to abandon Saline's planned development on property generally located at 4407 West Norfolk Avenue. I will open the hearing, and Val. Come on forward. You can beat her to the punch. Oh, we'll let her have her say too, so.
Good evening. My name is Ray Stala, and my wife and I own the property at 4407 West Norfolk Avenue. We've operated our business out of there for about 16 years now. Basically, what happened is when we wanted to move out there, the city was concerned about wellhead protection, but there wasn't a wellhead protection program in place at that time. So the plan development was brought to us as a way that we could go out there, we could use our property as a commercial piece of property, but would still allow the city to have control of kind of what we did, and if we made changes, we'd have to come here to get those approved. What's happened is I've talked to Val about maybe providing camper storage out there, and she said, well, since we have the wellhead protection in place at this time, maybe what we should do, it actually follows a comprehensive plan, is ask for a zoning change to C3 to kind of follow into what we actually should fall under. The other advantage for us is under that plan development, we were allowed to use 8 acres of our 12 acres. If we go zone C3, then we'd be able to use all the 12 acres that we have there. So if you have any questions, I'd sure be willing to answer them.
Council, any questions for Ray? All right.
Thank you, I appreciate
You bet.
it.
Thank you. Anything to add to that at all, Val? I think he gave us good explanation, so.
He did. I just wanted to point out that the PD removal is all 80 acres, so Stala's property and Celine's property. So Celine's property would just revert back to the ag zoning that it actually is. And so would Stala's until the next process comes through that it would be rezoned commercial then. So really, the PD is just removing that, and it's reverting back to ag for all 80 acres.
Yep, good clarification. Okay. If no further discussion here, Council.
Question
Whoop.
for Dennis,
Sorry.
do we have any concerns about that? Granted, we were doing it because of the wellhead protection was undetermined at that time. Do we have concerns or anything along that line?
No, I think we have the regulations in place to protect the wellhead from whatever activities may occur. They will be seeking a conditional use permit to allow the existing septic tank to remain in place. I believe the conditions will require that should the septic tank fail or need additional service, that it will have to either be brought onto city sewer or reapply for the conditional use. But ultimately, long-term, we'd like to get it off of the septic tank, but, you know, short-term, I don't think it's a huge issue, being it's existing.
Okay, anyone else that wants to speak to this? If not, Beth, do we have a planning commission report?
The Norfolk Planning Commission held a public hearing on Wednesday, July 6, 2016, at the request of Raymond and Julie Stala, Gary Peggy Celine, to abandon the Celine plan development on property generally located at 4407 West Norfolk Avenue, and the Planning Commission recommends approval on an 8-0 vote.
All right, and with that, we'll close this hearing, and I would ask for consideration of ordinance number 5414, abandoning Celine's plan development on the property located at 4407 West Norfolk Avenue generally.
Your Honor, I'd offer for consideration ordinance number 5414.
Second.
We have a motion with a second. Short title, Beth?
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Madison County, Nebraska, amending the zoning district map of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska by abandoning a previously approved plan development plan, providing when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and providing for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
And with that, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5414 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I'd move that we suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5414 on second and third reading.
Second.
We have a motion with a second to suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5414 on second and third. If no further discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5414 carries on second and third.
All right, and next is a public hearing at the request of Raymond Stala and Julie to consider a zoning change from Ag District with Plan Development Overlay to C3 on property located at 4407 West Norfolk Avenue. And more or less, I should have opened this public hearing probably with the preceding one. But that being said, are you comfortable, Val, with the explanation laid before us? Certainly.
Yes, the explanation that Ray Stala gave was exactly what he's asking to do. And this, I just want to point out again, it's not the total 80 acres that you just removed the PD from. It's just Stala's 12 acres.
Okay. All right. The public hearing is open. Is there anyone that wants to speak to this or may have questions? Council, we're all ready? No questions? Any discussion? All right, Beth, and a planning commission report on the public hearing.
The Norfolk Planning Commission held a public hearing on Wednesday, July 6, 2016, at the request of Raymond and Julie Stala to consider a zoning change from agriculture district with planned development overlay to C3 Service Commercial District on property at 4407 West Norfolk Avenue, and the Planning Commission recommends approval of the request on an 8-0 vote.
All right, I will close this hearing then and look for consideration of ordinance number 5415, approving the zoning change from agricultural district with planned development overlay to a C3 on the property located at 4407 West Norfolk Avenue.
I'll offer for considerance ordinance number 5415.
Second.
Well, you have a motion with a second. Any discussion? How about a short title, Beth?
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Madison County, Nebraska, amending the zoning district map of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, providing when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and providing for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
I would ask that you vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5415 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I move we suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5415 on second and third. Second.
All right, we have a motion with a second to suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5415 on second and third. And if no further discussion, I would ask for your vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5415 carries on second and third.
All right. 38 and 40. Thanks. All right, next is a public hearing for consideration of the feasibility of an amendment to the Norfolk Comp Plan from medium density and high density residential to commercial on the property generally located at 4200 West Norfolk Avenue. And as well, we'll open the public hearing at the request of Herrick Farms Incorporated to consider a zoning change from agricultural district with a conditional use permit to C3 on the property located at 4200 West Norfolk Avenue. I will open the public hearing, and it looks like we have a few here to speak. Great.
Donna Herrick from Norfolk Lodge and Suites and Divots Conference Center. Just want to say thank you for taking the time to hear what we want to share here a little bit tonight, and thank you for your public service. I am working with Leo Daly and Associates, architectural firm out of Omaha, and I'm going to let them come forward and tell a bit about the project.
Great.
Good evening. My name is Martin Janisek, and I'm with Leo A. Daly. And I'd like to just take you through a few slides here. Donna has asked us to give a little presentation, and we're honored to come here this evening to speak to you guys. So if we could go to the first slide. This slide here is a site plan. We also have a board over here in case someone from the audience can't see it. But basically, if you're familiar with Donna's property out there at Norfolk Lodge, we will be doing an addition to the northern wing of her hotel, and it will be along with, in yellow, you can see the parking lot additions, so there'll be a larger parking lot addition. We will also then create a loop road with the parking lot, so you can exit and continue around her entire property with access. This addition will be a 3-story addition. It will be 38 rooms, roughly 37,000 square feet, 3 stories tall. There will be a variety of rooms. There will be your standard rooms and then extended stay rooms as well. There will be a spa, a larger spa area on the first floor. There'll be an larger exercise room for her guests. There will be a family, what we were calling a family room addition, and that will be the little square piece to the northeast that kind of comes out from the dog leg of the turn of the building there. And that space there will be for larger family events like reunions, corporate events that people can rent and use. It'll be a very nice facility. And then on the roof there, on the third floor, there'll be a multi-purpose room that will have views out to the countryside, to the northeast, and actually back towards her courtyard, her space. Next slide. This is a rendering of what that addition will look like. It'll be very similar to, and we would like to say identical to our existing architecture, using the same color and materials. You can see the hint of a rooftop deck that will come off the multi-purpose room right above the family room I'd mentioned, which is the addition that's coming off to the left there. Parking, you can see parking in the foreground as well. Next slide. This is a concept rendering of what the family room addition could look like when it's finished. Seating, a large eating area for family gatherings around a large island, and refrigerators and all the sort of things that go with it, with a balcony that goes into hotel rooms above. Next slide. This would be a concept sketch of the rooftop multi-purpose area, showing it could be a large volume, very similar to architecture that Donna has done already on her property. Next slide. And this would be a view out from the roof terrace that would look out over the countryside, that would be connected to the multi-purpose room, and carrying again the same architecture that she's used already with a little different flair. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any that you might have. We're excited for this project, and Donna is too.
And so are we.
Okay, thank you.
So appreciate you being here. Sure, come on forward. Okay. Dick Johnson, are you quiet? Okay. Whoa.
Put that in the minutes.
Yeah. Did you hear that? It's in the minutes. Any questions at all?
So is this taking everything out of the cup and putting it into C3, or is there still going to be some to the, because it looks like the cup went as far north as the property line?
Yeah, I'm not sure, I guess I won't talk.
I guess you will.
Thanks, see.
It's his fault.
I know.
Okay.
You're welcome.
I'm not sure what we're gonna do with the CUP yet. That is for the golf course. And, you know, there's a 3-hole golf course out there and driving range, and I'm not sure how much, if any, of that is gonna survive this. The motel addition that you saw is gonna extend into and take out the driving range. And I'm not sure there'll be enough room left to make the golf course feasible with the parking and everything. So at some point, we'll probably have to address the CUP.
That was the only thing that I was seeing. I looked at the zoning quick and saw that it was a CUP in there, and how much of that was actually going to stay or just all disappear and go into the requested zoning area that way, so.
Well, we'll see how it works out.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dick. Any other questions for him? Okay. All right, public hearing. Anyone else that might have questions or want to speak to this, or? If not, then I would bet we have a planning commission report.
The Norfolk Planning Commission held public hearings on Wednesday, July 6, 2016, to consider amending the comp plan and to consider the zoning change for the property at 4200 West Norfolk. And the Planning Commission recommends approval on both of the requests on an 8-0 vote.
All right, with that, then I will close both public hearings and ask for first consideration of ordinance number 5416, which would be amending the city's comprehensive plan from medium-density and high-density residential to commercial on the property generally located at 4200 West Norfolk Avenue.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion for consideration of ordinance number 5416.
We have a motion and a couple seconds for consideration of ordinance 5416. If no further discussion, a short title, Beth.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Madison County, Nebraska, amending the future land use map of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, providing when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and providing for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
All right, and with that, I would ask for your vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5416 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I move we suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5416 on second and third.
Second.
We have a motion with a second to suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5416 on second and third reading, and if no further discussion, again, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5416 carries on second and third.
And as well, consideration of ordinance number 5417, approving the zone change from Ag District with a conditional use permit to C3, Service Commercial District on property located at 4200 West Norfolk Avenue. Looking for a motion for consideration.
Your Honor, I'd move consideration of ordinance 5417 on first reading.
Second.
We have a motion with a second for approval. Short title, Beth.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Madison County, Nebraska, amending the zoning district map of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, providing when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and providing for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5417 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I'd move we suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5417 on second and third reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5417 on second and third. If no further discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5417 carries on second and third.
Okay. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you, Donna. It's always, certainly, I did just this morning a quick little welcome to a group that was here. And impressed, as always, is how it is that we can have what we have right here in Norfolk, Nebraska. It's certainly housed and takes care of with the greatest of service. So thank you what you've done for this whole community area and continue to do. So good luck, gentlemen, as you move forward too. Moving on to the regular agenda, consideration of ordinance number 5418, authorizing issuance of public safety tax anticipation bonds in the principal amount not to exceed $525,000. I'm looking for a motion.
Your Honor, I would offer for consideration ordinance number 5418.
Second.
We have a motion with a second. I bet we're looking to Randy.
Yes, Your Honor. This bond issue is budgeted in the Capital Projects Fund this year, and like all the bond and note issues on tonight's agenda, we plan on bidding this out to the local banks. So all three of these issues, the sizing isn't completely determined. We know what we think the sizing will be, but we allow the banks, if they want to add some issuance costs in up front. I don't anticipate they will, but it's possible. So there's a maximum sizing on all these issues, and Also in that memo, we say what we expect the sizing to be. In this case, we expect the sizing to be $510,000, and it provides for the financing of the public safety portion of the street building and also the self-contained breathing apparatus. We recommend passage on all 3 readings. Does that answer any questions?
Okay, any questions at all, council, for Randy? If not, short title.
An ordinance authorizing the issuance of public safety equipment tax anticipation bonds of the city of Norfolk, Nebraska in the principal amount of not to exceed $525,000 for the purpose of purchasing and maintaining public safety vehicles and public safety equipment and miscellaneous costs associated therewith, directing the application of the proceeds of said bonds, prescribing the form of the bonds, providing for the levy and collection of taxes to pay the same, authorizing the delivery of the bonds to the purchaser, authorizing officers of the city to make arrangements for the sale or placement of the bonds, and to designate the final terms, rates, and maturity schedule for said bonds within stated parameters, and ordering the ordinance published in pamphlet form.
And with that, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance 5418 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I move we suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5418 on second and third.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5418 on second and third. If no further discussion, and at Randy's request, I would ask that you vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance 5418 carries on second and third.
All right, and next is consideration of ordinance number 5419, which is authorizing issuance of various purpose bonds for permanent financing of paving districts 505, 506, 507, and 508 in the principal amount not to exceed $375,000. I'm looking for a motion for consideration of.
Your Honor, I'd move consideration of ordinance number 5419.
Second.
We have a motion with a second. Randy?
Yes, Your Honor. This ordinance provides the permanent financing, as you mentioned, for those 4 paving districts, 505, 6, 7, and 8. We have outstanding $340,000 of bond anticipation notes, or have outstanding $527,000 of bond anticipation notes. And this bond issue would call those notes and provide for $362,000 of bond proceeds for payment of those notes. And correctly so, we did have $527,000 on the 2 of them outstanding. And the rest of that would be paid from cash that we have with special assessment payments on hand for the districts that are financed by those. And once again, that's going to be put out for bids, and I recommend passage on all 3 readings. 10-year notes with a 5-year call.
Okay, any questions for Randy at all? If not, short title, Beth.
An ordinance authorizing the issuance of general obligation various purpose bonds, Series 2016 of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, in the principal amount of not to exceed $375,000 for the purpose of paying off interim financing for the costs of street improvements in paving district numbers 505, 506, 507, and 508, prescribing the form of said bonds, providing for the levy and collection of taxes to pay the same, entering into a contract on behalf of the city with the holders of said bonds, authorizing officers of the city to make arrangements for the sale or placement of the bonds and to designate the final terms, rates, and maturity schedule for said bonds within stated parameters, and providing for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
With that, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance 5419 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I move that we suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5419 on second and third reading.
Second.
We have a motion with a second to suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5419 on second and third. Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance 5419 carries on second and third.
All right, next I'm looking for consideration of Resolution 2016-26 that's calling the $340,000 of outstanding Series 2014 bond anticipation notes and $187,000 of outstanding Series 2015B bond anticipation notes for redemption on or shortly after August 18th, 2016. Looking for a motion to adopt.
So move, Your Honor.
Second.
Any further discussion at all? If not, please vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative, Resolution 2016-26 is adopted.
And last but not least is consideration of ordinance number 5420, authorizing issuance of a special assessment bond anticipation note in the principal amount not to exceed $37,000 for Sewer District 248. Looking for a motion for consideration.
Your Honor, I move consideration of ordinance number 5420.
Second?
A motion with a second. Anything we need to know here, Randy?
Oh, not too much. It's just the interim financing for that little sewer extension district, 3 lots out there on Highway 35, and this provides the interim financing for that. We expect the note issue to be $32,000. Recommend passage on all 3 readings.
Okay, if no questions. Short title, Beth. Short title, Beth.
An ordinance authorizing the issuance of bond anticipation notes of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska in the principal amount of not to exceed $37,000 for the purpose of providing interim financing for the costs of sanitary sewer system improvements in Sanitary Sewer Extension District 248, pending the issuance of permanent general obligation various purpose bonds of the city, prescribing the form of said notes, agreeing to issue the city's general obligation various purpose bonds to pay the notes at maturity or to pay the notes from other available funds, entering into a contract on behalf of the city with the holders of said notes, authorizing officers of the city to make arrangements for the sale of the notes and to designate the final terms, rates, and maturity schedule for said notes within stated parameters, and providing for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5420 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I move we suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5420 on second and third.
Second that, Your Honor.
All right, we have a motion with a second to suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5420 on second and third. Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5420 carries on second and third.
Okay, and last on the agenda, we're looking for just a short administrative report and an update on the bid letting for the Armor Code 2016 project. Mr. Dennis.
John's going to handle it.
Oh, I'm sorry, John.
No worries.
John, I think we need to get you glasses. Your nose is pretty far down there.
You don't need a loan in mind.
That was Mrs. Whitham always told me that. Sorry, John.
The Armor Coat project is just a project to armor coat the majority of the asphalt streets in town. We had a bid letting for the project on July 12th. We had one bid that was received that day, and there was an issue with the bid bond, so we rejected that bid. So we really had 0 bids for the project. We think a lot of that is just the time of year that the project was bid. A lot of the contractors are just pretty full. So we plan to rebid the project next spring, hoping for construction next summer. So any questions on that?
Some things are out of your control. You know, if you don't have the bids in front of you to take a look at, and one is not passing the mustard, where do you go? So I appreciate you.
John, are we bidding early enough to where you think you'd get some more bids in?
We'll bid early spring. And yeah, we're confident that we will hopefully have several bids in the spring.
Do we know approximately how many miles or blocks or what I know it's all the asphalt streets, but.
I could look up a square yardage number for you. I don't have it off
That's
the top
clear,
of my head.
nobody understands that. That would be interesting when it comes out anyway, so.
Sure.
All right, any other questions at all? If not, thanks again for being here,
Thank you.
for all of you being here, and we are adjourned.